So yeah, once again I'd like to welcome everyone. So morning. So I can see the participants are not that much. So let us make it more interactive. Okay. So that would be better for you guys also and for me also to know which part you are more interested and what are your interests on because it would be good. Like I'll prefer if you guys have any question you can ask me in between instead of waiting for the end. So you can always bother me in between and ask me whenever you think that okay, this is something which you are interested in, you have some queries or doubts regarding that. Okay, so that I would be that would be good for us for today's session. Other than that, yeah. So I'll also talk few things in the first session. I'll be talking about initial about 5G, why 5G, and then topics, few research areas about 5G and beyond, or we may say 6G, what is going to after 5G and all those stuff, why 5G, and we'll go through some mathematics if time permits. And in the second talk, around from 11:30 to 1, we will be more focused towards we'll try to understand some kind of meta coding on 5G and our best OFDM. Okay. So yeah, so one more thing I'd like to just convey a message to you all. If you guys have any interest in doing PhD or any kind of research work, you are always welcome to join my group at IIT Roorkee. And through, I think if you guys are professor, there is a good initiative by government, QIP kind of thing, you guys will be knowing. You can always contact us, anyone of us at IIT Roorkee or me also. Okay. Yes. So just I'll start with. So I'll just tell you some initial details of 5G, like how 5G would have started and what. Like it's not only about 5G, right? Whenever some requirement comes, okay, I need something, some. For example, when it was for 1G, let us start from 1G. When the requirement was not that much, when we were having just we wanted to support voice. Initially, we wanted to support voice, and at that time, for engineers, the aim was okay if the data rate is of the order of 1 to 5 kbps, it is fine. We can see with 1G, we were just supporting voice with a data rate of 1 to 5 kbps, right? But then as time evolves and then the requirements increases, we can see then the researchers of the next decade developed a communication system, cellular communication system known as 2G, which was based on GSM, right? And we can see the requirement of data rate increased from 5 kbps to 25 kbps. You guys remember in 1G we were only having voice. Most of us would not have used this kind of telephone. But when we went to cellular phone, when we went to 2G, I think most of us have used 2G phone, right? Where we used to do this voice plus SMS. Most of us have used that phone. Then when we moved towards in the next decade of time, we had 3G, which was mainly focused on wideband CDMA system. And with data rate of the order of 2 Mbps. So when we moved from 25 kbps to 2 Mbps, there was too many applications that came into life, right? For example, if you just think from our perspective only, in 2G we were only SMS, we were doing a message through SMS, and then we were having this voice. In 3G, most of the time, I think we have used 3G, where we are able to serve the internet also. That was a major change that happened from 2G to 3G, where we are accessing the internet, right? World Wide Web. There only most of the people the first time started using that. Then for the next decade, in 2010, we got 4G, which now I think most every one of us are using 4G, and with 300 Mbps, around 300 Mbps of data rate, I think we are able to do anything what we want over the cellular phone, right? I too personally don't think that I need any other requirement, any more further requirement in terms of data rate, at least for cellular communication, because we are able to support video call, we are able to support very high buffering streaming, right? We are able to watch YouTube videos and everything of high quality. So 4G is more of 90% of the time is able to support our requirement as of now, right? But still, people have the researcher industry expert in wireless domain have already came up with something called 5G, which is supporting a data rate of more than 1 Gbps. This is already there in few countries, and maybe in few years, our India will also get that, right? But like we should know, like see, is as soon as one generation of cellular network comes, there's always a demand. The researcher will not say, okay, done. We have given 5G, now we have nothing to do. We'll sit again. There's nothing like that. Everybody has to keep working on. Now people are working about talking about 5G and beyond of 6G kind of technologies. So we will also talk in today's class some technologies for that today's talk. And then that's why I said 5G was finalized, like 5G standard was finalized in 2020. So only they are aiming in over the next decade or maybe before that also, we'll have this standard for 6G. So maybe in 2030 or 2025 also, we don't know how the thing progresses. So we may have 6G also. So it happens. Okay, so we got 4G. I connect 4G just 2 3 years back when Jio came into picture, and we got 4G at full strength. Although over the world, 2010 in 2010 only we got there was 4G in existence, but we got maybe I think just 2 3 years or 4 years before only. So there's always a delay when we get this service, right? So yeah. So now when we move towards, like I said, applications, this I have already covered. 1G we had just voice communication. 2G we had voice as well as SMS service. 3G we had voice, SMS plus World Wide Web, correct? Internet. 4G, and you can see the phones also, right? We most of us have used this phone. I have used personally during my MTech time at IIT Kanpur. I had this phone, right? And this was the most durable phone I ever had. And we had 3G with touch screen came into existence because of the world internet, World Wide Web, WWW. And then in 4G now everyone has this phone with doing video calls and everything, SMS, WhatsApp, everything is possible because of the 4G. So you can see whatever we are using it is possible just because of the wireless engineers, industry experts who are working in wireless domain are working day and night on that. Okay. And now in 5G, now the question, like I was giving you an example also, right? For me, 4G in terms of cellular communication, all my requirements are almost 90% done. Then why do we need 5G? Where the 5G is more like people are talking so much hype and people are talking about 5G, 5G, 5G everywhere. So the reason is still 4G, it was mainly this focus on the cellular communication was, or I would say the 4G, 5G, this kind of thing were mainly focused on cellular communication. Okay, how to communicate from one place to another using telephone, using phone. That was the main focus. But in 5G, the focus has shifted. 5G has that requirement. Okay, 5G will support, no doubt, high speed, voice, SMS, ultra HD 3D video. But now the application has increased. The application has increased from cellular, on not only cellular, but to certain like IoT devices. For example, smart home, smart city. For example, if our in our house we have smart electricity, for example, smart washing machine, everything is smart now. Alexa is there, smart home, Google, okay, Google is there, so Google Home is there. You can see now the aim is in future that everything, every small thing is connected to the internet. Okay. For example, if I just want to switch off anything, now as of now we need to press a button, right? Suppose for tube light I need to switch off the fan or switch on the fan. But with this internet kind of thing, we don't have to use anything. In my mobile, everything is connected. I can do using my mobile or any device. So this is where in next 3 to 4 years we are for sure going to see that everything will be smart. When you buy a home, when you're making a home, you'll see that the new generation of homes and all those things that you'll see will be more smarter. Okay. And that is what 5G is focused on more when compared to the cellular, because this part is already covered by 4G. Not much is left. But this part where IoT and smart devices, there that is a part to cover in next decade. And we are talking about driverless cars, that Google is working from a decade or so. And we are also talking about something called air taxi. If not many people would be knowing, people are targeting that by 2030, they'll everywhere there will be air taxi kind of service. Okay, now we are just talking about aeroplanes, but they are also talking about air taxis. Okay, think like how people are moving fast in this direction. Now, this was about the application because it's very important. We should know why this kind of technologies are existing and why 6Gs will come and all this stuff. Now, important part is okay, that was application, but what actually we know in this all 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, what is important? Frequency, right? The frequency is changing. Frequency is moving from lower to higher. Like for example, in 1G, the frequency that was used was very low, and when we move towards 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, we are moving from very low frequency to RF frequency to now towards microwave frequency. And now when we're talking to about 6G or 5G and beyond, they are talking about terahertz of frequency. So they are moving towards this. The reason for in moving from lower frequency to higher frequency is that the availability of bandwidth. As you move from lower bandwidth, lower frequency to higher bandwidth, there is large bandwidth available there. Okay, for example, if you see here 3 to 30, we just have very almost 27 kilohertz of bandwidth here that we can use, right? But here, if you move from 10 to 20, also we have 10 gigahertz of bandwidth available. Means the range, frequency range that is available. I should not say bandwidth, the frequency range that is available. And because of that, here we are able to support a bandwidth of almost 200 megahertz. Okay, with 5G, and maybe when we move towards terahertz, maybe we will be able to support maybe 1 gigahertz of bandwidth also. And you always should know that bandwidth is always related to the data rate. The more the bandwidth, the more data rate it we can support. Okay, so that's why researcher wants to move from lower frequency towards the higher frequency, but it also has its own disadvantage because as we know when we are moving towards the higher frequency, the disadvantage is that the path loss increases, right? The signal cannot propagate to a larger distance. And that is the problem with when we talk about 5G, uh, like the higher range, like 5G everyone knows is divided into two ranges. Okay, sub 6 gigahertz range and millimeter wave range. Sub 6 gigahertz when you talk, it is about frequency about less than 6 gigahertz. Any frequency below 6 gigahertz is 5G supporting, it is called sub 6 gigahertz, and greater than 25 or so is known as millimeter wave. In the millimeter wave frequency range, greater than 25 gigahertz also, the main problem that is existing, that is there is the signal is not able to flow. It is very fast. There's so huge loss. For example, if I'm transmitting, suppose a base station is transmitting, I'm carrying a phone, for example, like this. So if the signal is coming from the back, will be it cannot reach my phone also if there is no line of sight. It only depends on line of sight, and there's very less possibility that there will be line of sight available everywhere between the base station and the user. And that's why that is the main difficulty in implementing the any application, any cellular communication, which is using the higher frequency. Okay? And that's why most of the 5G as of now is focused on the sub 6 gigahertz range for the cellular communication. Now, like I said here, like frequency. So if we see, it's not like 5G. If I'm saying 5G, 5G will only use this frequency. Below that, it can always use. For example, if 5G is using a range of, like I said, this range was of millimeter wave range, I said, right? This was used, this has certain application. Mid range also 5G is being used, mid bands also, and low band. So 5G is used from 100 gigahertz and going lower to very low frequencies also. Well, you can see 2G, 2G, 3G. So any cellular technology can use any frequency below. Okay. Now your doubt would be why it is like that. Why it's that 5G should use this frequency, only 4G should use this frequency. It's not like that. What happens? Suppose 5G in 5G, my application is to support IoT device, which is just monitoring the, for example, temperature of a pond, okay, or water quality of a pond. So in that case, I don't require that much high data rate, right? Because the data rate requirement is not that much, the bandwidth requirement is not that much, and in that case, what I will do, but yeah, reliability is there very important. That because what happens? Suppose I'm monitoring a water quality of a pond, I just need to send information once or twice a day, right? I don't want to have to transmit data all the time, and the information that is transmitted is also very less. Maybe in bits also it can be transmitted, few bits. So that's why the data rate requirement is not that much, but reliability is more important. the coverage is more important. In that case, I'll go towards the lower band of frequency, because at the lower band of frequency, the benefit is the message can be transmitted to a larger distance. But when we go towards the higher frequency, for example, the application is towards very like high speed internet I want, or high speed data rate I want for some specific special services. For example, wireless cars where I want to be connected throughout and more information is transmitted. So many different applications. I'll not go into the details. So depending on the application and requirement, we may choose what frequency to operate on. And this was applicable for also for 2G frequency, for 4G also, and similarly for 5G. But as we are moving from 1G to 2G to 3G, you can see we are able to 5G can support higher band, but 4G cannot go beyond 6 GHz. Only 3G cannot go beyond this mid bands. Okay. So now, like I said, what 5G application about the 5G application. So 5G can support so lot of things. Like earlier, till 4G, we were only focused on cellular, I said, but 5G is about monitoring the water quality, or temperature of the pond, smart variables, smart mobility. We are talking about that the cars can interact with each other. If suppose car is coming from here and they see there's some traffic jam out there, but cars by themselves also communicate to each other. That is something that is going on. Smart parking, e-health, so many things are like smart. And anyway, I said smart homes, connected houses. So many applications that we have not imagined. Also, we cannot think also that is going to come in next decade or so, or maybe before that also. Okay. So now, like for example, driverless car, I was talking about that Google and many other big giant companies are working on, and maybe it will be there in developed countries very soon. And but the reality, if I would say, like okay, like if you see in the developed countries outside, they have a proper traffic, if you can see, right? Okay, if suppose there's a driverless car here, so all the rules are followed, everything is followed. So in that case, okay, driverless car looks feasible. But in a country like us, like with this kind of traffic, I don't think, and no one can imagine how would this Google driverless car or anyone's driverless car would work or think also. It would be easy to code here, but it will be very, very difficult to do a coding for a driverless car here, right? And if we go into the another level, this kind of scenario is never possible. So yeah, so for India, a driverless car is long, long like distance. We don't know 2 decades or 3 decades how much time it will take. But yeah, so it will always be a dream for us, it seems. So according to like recent data by Ericsson Mobility, it says that in 2015 there were only two connected devices per person, only two connected devices per person, and by 2021 we have almost four connected devices, wireless devices per person. Okay, so you can see almost there is a growth of 10% every year, kind of. You can also see, right? Everyone is in our home. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has a smart TV. So most of the things are there smart. So there are so many devices that are connected to the internet, and this is going to increase and increase and increase. Like I said, with the intent of with the 5G coming to picture, there are so many things happening. Similarly, in terms of data traffic, if I say in 2015 we were using 710 megabytes per month per person, but in 2021, by the end of 2021, we are using. It is expected to use 6.5 GB per month per person. And according to me, this for Indian perspective, everyone is using 1 GB per month per day actually right now in India at least. Most of the people, most of the people are using 1 GB per day per person. So you can see this is average. This will be average out over all the world data. But yeah, I would say that we are using too much of data as of now, right? And it is expected to grow exponentially. You can see the growth is exponential, almost 40% annual growth. And so based on this requirement only, the people think, the researchers sit together with the standard body, with the industry expert, and they come up with certain requirement. For example, when 5G is set, so 5G requirement is this dark green. This IMC 2020 is the standard body which finalize the requirement that what should 5G be. So they come up with different requirement. Okay, what is the spectral efficiency when compared to before generation? So they said it should be 3 times. What should be the mobility? They said okay, in the terms of mobility, they said okay, it should be around 500 kmph. But according to me, for Indian perspective, our country's perspective, we don't require 500 as of now. We are fine with this range, maybe 50, 100. That is more than enough for us. So mobility is not a concern for our application, at least perspective to India. But yeah, latency is something which is very good. Like earlier, it was latency was 10 milliseconds. Now they're saying the latency should be reduced to 1 millisecond, and this will open ample of application. If we are able to support a latency of 1 millisecond, then like distance, like the doctors from a far distance can operate patient by just sitting from there. So that is one application. There are many other applications. So this will open a plethora of applications. So the connection diversity. Most important thing, area diversity, peak data rate. This is fine, but according to me, the most important thing is network energy efficiency. Till now, because people were only talking about data rate is increased, data rate is increased, but no one was focusing on how to reduce the power consumption of the network. Because we know it's like it is affecting our environment, no doubt, right? The carbon dioxide release and all those things are happening, CO2 release. So it's always important that we use less and less energy, less and less power, such that our network is energy efficient. So my research interest towards my PhD, and now also I focus more towards the energy efficiency along with the spectrum efficiency. Okay, if time permits, I'll discuss about this also into the stuff. So you can see in spectral efficiency, they said okay from 1 to 3 times. So spectral efficiency, if you guys don't know, is about how well we are using the spectrum, how well we are using the frequency. This spectrum efficiency talks about that. Okay, and the network energy efficiency is about the how well we are utilizing the power, how well we are utilizing the energy. For example, spectral efficiency talks about like how many bits per second we are transmitting in one band, one unit of frequency. Similarly, the energy efficiency talks how many bits we are transmitting in 1 joule of energy. So they are similar, but one is focusing on the frequency, another is focusing on the energy. Okay. So you can see that's almost 100 times increase they want. Now I'll just give you a focus on how a cellular architecture actually looks. Okay. So if you guys know, if this, you guys, everyone should be knowing that, okay, we have a cell site here at the top of a building or somewhere that one base station is installed, right? We could see a box, black box or some sort of box installed, which is through which where all the users are being served in that geographical area, right? But what exactly happens, what exactly is there, now I will tell you. That box is not the complete base station. That box is just a part of that base station. Okay? The box is called a remote radio head that contains the RF, mainly the RF part of it. Then there is a baseband unit that is connected, and that is housed in a server room, some AC room that is there, where all the baseband units, we call a baseband unit. So this is called a centralized unit. This is called a decentralized unit. Okay. So what happens? This RRH, which is sitting on the cell site, which is at the tower, okay, this is covering the complete geographical area, but the main processing that is happening in the baseband unit. Okay, and therefore we require in a cell site. If you see, just next time when you get a chance to see some high-rise building, there are always almost 3 red boxes to cover a complete cell site. If suppose that the base station wants to, or that remote radio head wants to cover the complete cell site, it will require 3 RRH, because 1 RRH can only cover a sector of 120 degrees. So therefore, we require 3 RRH to cover a complete cell site. Just see it sometime whenever you get a chance, you will see that. And this each of these RRH is connected to the centralized unit or baseband unit through a front haul fiber. So there's a fiber through which they are connected. Okay, and similarly, the baseband unit is also connected to a something called core network. And like I said, this is just a central server. Okay, So instead of only supporting one, it can support many such cell sites. There is one cell site which is connected. It can support many cell sites. In this, what happens? The complexity of this tower reduces. This RRX reduces, and most of the complexity complex algorithm that is running is sitting on the baseband, not on the cell site. Okay, fine. And we know now our focus as a wireless engineer, our focus is more towards this link. How this wireless link, where we have this wireless link between the RRH, or in loose term we call it base station, between this and the user, how we can make it more efficient and more effective. So now, from now, I'll just focus on that, how to make this link more and more effective. Okay. So for that, till date, there are so many technologies that has been developed till 5G, and now when you are talking about 5G and beyond, or 6G, so there's some new technologies there that are very suitable candidate to work on this, and I will just discuss few of them today. Yeah. One of them is full duplex communication. Currently, what happens? Currently, either a user can transmit or receive. It can't transmit and receive at the same instant of time of frequency. Okay. But with full duplex communication, researchers are seeing that if that is happening, if that is possible, what will happen? Because with half duplex, there is a limitation. It reduces the overall data rate or spectral efficiency. But with full duplex, it will just double it. So people are thinking about it. How can we achieve it? So that is one research of area, and I have worked a lot on this. I'll discuss this in detail also. Then there is something called selfie massive MIMO. Selfie massive MIMO, then I'll discuss this thing. I'll give you a brief idea. There is something called intelligent reflecting surface, non non-orthogonal multiple access, filter band multi-carrier, device-to-device communication, and wireless power transmission. So what I'll do, I'll just give you a brief idea. Otherwise, it will be just I'll be talking and too much of higher level. Let me give you a brief idea how we move from one technology to another, why different technologies comes into existence. First of all, we should know that. So before going to the details of so many technologies and complications, we should know first of all what is important. Okay. Why we are doing this. So we have a base. For example, let me give you a trivial example. We have a base station, okay. We have a base station. We have user. Now the base station is transmitting signals to the user. What happens? And through wireless channel, right? Now the base station is transmitting signal to the user through a wireless channel. What happens? Now in the environment, in the wireless environment, we have so many things. We have buildings, uh, right? Trees, so many things like are there. Diagram's not that good. Okay, just ignore that. So when the signal is being transmitted, what happens? Because of the wireless channel, because of this different propagation environment, the signal when it's received at the user, okay, suppose one signal is transmitted, the signal is reflected, scattered, so many things happen, right? Suppose before reaching the signal is reflected, scattered, and so many signal can move. So when it is reaching at the user, it is reaching through different paths. One signal was transmitted, but at the receiver, when it is received, it's receiving multiple copies of the transmit signal and multiple delayed version. I would say multiple copies, right, of transmit signal is received. that to delayed versions, because it is some may travel lesser distance when compared to other, right? Delayed versions. So you can see because of this, and this is a phenomena like we always talk about. This leads to a fading, and because of this, mainly what happens. Where I want to go here is this. Suppose we are, if I'm denoting this as a complete channel, because of this, what is happening? The signal that is being transmitted is coming, passing through a channel, or suppose something of this side. Okay, the channel is changing too much. Sometimes it is seeing the constructive interference, and sometimes, and most of the time, it is seeing destructive interference. Because when the signals are getting added up at the receiver, they are getting added up at a different phase, right? Every signal has a magnitude as well as phase, and when they are summed up, what may happen? They may cancel each other. Okay, leading to this kind of point where the channel strength is very low, right? And this point is something which will lead to something called deep fade. Okay, where the signal quality, channel quality is very low. We are transmitting X. It is passing through H. Okay, when we are receiving it along with noise, because of the channel H is very low, what I am receiving is it's noise only. Because overall, because of H being very low, irrespective of what X was I was transmitting with whatever power, this noise is dominating when compared to this. Because this overall term is very low, right? So you guys can hear me, right? Dr. Garima?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
fine. Yeah. So you can see that because of the channel strength is very low, my received signal is very bad, right? Because of this destructive interference that is coming because of the wireless channel, right? This point is coming because of the destructive interference. Okay, due to the channel. And this high peaks that we are getting is because of the constructive interference. Okay, so for as a wireless engineer, I would more bothered in the destructive interference. Constructive is good. Okay, I'm transmitting, I'm getting much better. That is good, but that happens very rarely. I said that is very rarely that will happen. That two signal that has been added up, that two phase coherently, that two in good same phase, so that they are adding constructively. That happens very less amount, less time. Okay, but most of the time, the destructive interference will happen. And it's now also I see sometimes, like in 4G also I see sometimes this is a problem. And sometimes the calls get disconnected. Sometimes the voice is not clear. Sometimes the call gets like misconnected to someone else. So this kind of things still happen, and this is happening mainly because of the destructive interference that you see. Right? Now, in past, there are many technologies that came to support it. So what exactly is happening here? I'll tell you. So there is a transmitter, there is a receiver. One transmitter, one receiver, right? So when this is a channel between this transmitter and receiver, there is one channel. Fine. This channel. If this channel is bad, like for example, the way we have seen deep fade channel, okay, then we are gone. Okay, then we can't do anything. If this is in deep fade, the communication cannot happen, and communication is in black. That's why when people, when they develop 3G to 4G and when they moved, they came with something called multiple. They use instead of single antenna, they use multiple antennas. Okay, multiple antennas. What will happen? You just see. Just giving you an intuition. Suppose we are using two transmit antenna, two receive antenna. What is happening? Now instead of one channel, I have almost four channels. One channel, two channel, three channel, four channel. Right? So I have almost four channels. Just think, just for 2 seconds, and I'll answer. Here, because there was only one channel, the probability of deep fade event, that deep fading that was happening was proportional, inversely proportional to the SNR in that case. Here what happened, because of multiple antennas, this probability is now further reducing. Okay, now there's very less possibility, right, that all the links are in bad state. Here there was only one link, so if at this point that is gone. But here with four channels, there's very less possibility. The possibility or the probability of all the links to be in bad state is reduced. Correct? And this is the advantage with multiple antennas. This is what 4G is using. In 4G, we use multiple transmit antennas, multiple receive antennas, all to the order of I think 4x4 or maybe 8x8 also in some high-end mobile like Apple or something. They may be using 8x8 also, but they don't tell all the details. But what with as a researcher we have known is they use 4x4 until 8x8 antennas in 4G. Okay, this was about 4G, like I said. Now when we move towards 5G, okay, now when we move towards 5G, one important technology that came into existence is massive MIMO. Okay, and you can see this is what I can call it. This is MIMO, multiple input, multiple output, multiple input, multiple output. With massive MIMO, what happened? Huh? With massive MIMO, same thing is there, but they are saying now the number of antennas are large. Okay, from 1 to n, and this n is of the order of 64 to 128 to 512 also, depending on what frequency range we are working. So they are moving from this range to this range. And what happens? There's one very senior researcher, Professor Margetta, in his seminal paper of 2009, he showed that when we are moving from lower antenna to higher antenna, number of antennas, the channel behavior is also changing. How it is changing is, suppose if we have a channel, okay, of size 2 cross 2, complex channel of size 2 cross 2, and similarly we have another channel of, for example, 100 cross 2. Okay, this exercise you can do in MATLAB also. You can go back and try out. You have this two kind of channel, channel 1 and channel 2. And then at the receiver, when I am using simple MRC combiner, suppose I have a signal like y equal to hx plus n. I have received y. Now I am just using some kind of combiner at the receiver to receive, because I am receiving this many signal, two signal I have received. I need to do some processing, correct? So as to use both the signal that I have received at two antennas. So I use some kind of combining technique. For example, maximal ratio combining. So what it says is, if you are using simple maximum ratio combining, like for example, simple H Hermitian, this simple maximum ratio combiner Y, which will lead to H Hermitian H into X plus H Hermitian N. Correct? I'm just doing MRC combining, which is leading to, suppose I'm writing it R. What is happening? This H Hermitian H that we see here, okay, becomes a diagonal. Or I would say, when you do this operation with H this and H this, just try out. This will help you. Okay. So when you do this operation of H Hermitian H in MATLAB for these two cases, case 1 and case 2, okay, what you will see is this one will have a diagonal element which are huge, whose magnitude is large, and the non-diagonal elements will be having a very low value. Oh, this you can do this exercise by yourself. Similarly, but for when the number of element is just 2 cross 2, here all the elements are almost similar, 0.3, 0.1, for example, 0.2, 0.4, something. So all the elements will be of same order, but with large number of antennas into picture, you'll see that the diagonal elements will be more dominating when compared to non-diagonal elements. This is a very, very important concept in massive MIMO in 5G. This helps us in reducing the inter-user interference. For example, if we are serving multiple users at the same time, what is happening? This is from, suppose for example, this H Hermison H is denoting the channel. This is from its own channel 1 1. This is from 1 2. This is from 2 comma 1. This is from 2 comma 2. What is happening is this is desired ones where the signal is very good, but the undesired signal 1 comma 2 and 2 comma 1, they are very low. Okay, because of this, the interference that is coming from the other user on the using the same channel is reduced with by using simple combiner, very low complexity MRC combiner. This was not possible in 4G. 4G had to use some complicated receiver to get rid of the interference that is coming from the different existing users in the net. Okay, just this is one important advantage of Massive MIMO that they have used. If you see the math part. Now further moving towards this was I have told you about Massive MIMO. Now I want to introduce some advanced topics, like I said, 5G and beyond topics. Like I was mentioning is cell-free Massive MIMO. Cell-free Massive MIMO. I have now told you about Massive MIMO. The concept of Massive MIMO mainly is about that I said simple MRC combiner can help us in reducing the complexity or reducing the inter-user interference. Okay. One important part now that we differentiate between Massive MIMO and cell-free Massive MIMO. Okay, we have this two. What are difference? In Massive MIMO, what happens? We have one base station, for example, connected to the with multiple antennas. Okay, connected to the multiple antennas, one base station, and which is serving, for example, users, two users, one user here and one user two here. So what is the problem here? See, anyway, always if we are moving from one technology to a second technology, there should be some issue in the first technology. That's why we are moving towards the next technology, right? So I'm trying to give the disadvantage of this kind of thing, and then I'll give how can we solve this problem with this selfie Massive MIMO. Okay. So what is the issue? If I can see, we know as this distance is d1, for example, and this distance is d2. And as I can see, the distance between the base station and user 2 is very, very greater than distance 1. And just through simple law of physics, also we know that as the signal propagates in free space, right? In free space, it travels, and the intensity reduces, the strength reduces to the order of 1 upon d square. If you guys have remembered the EMF theory or the basic physics, the signal is reducing, the signal strength is reducing to the order of the distance square. What is happening because of this? One user which is very close is getting proper performance, proper data rate, proper capacity, but the user that is at far distance is getting a poor performance, right? Because of the, like I said, path loss is increased. Right now, the researcher, this just recently, very recently, 3-4 years before only, came up with an idea. So this Massive MIMO was started, like first paper came on 2009. Here the first paper came on 2017 or so. Okay, the first paper, they said, okay, why not, instead of having a single base station with all the antennas connected to it, they said we have multiple, they call it antenna. See, we have, logic is that they're just dividing this antenna that is earlier at one place at different locations. Okay, there's a large geographical area where we are placing that antennas, and this is called access point. Actually, these are called access points. So different access points are placed over a large geographical area. So you can see what is the advantage. User is still there. Okay. But now what is happening? Earlier, only one base station was there which was serving all the users. But now what is happening? Every user will for sure have one, right? Every user will have at least one base station or one access point which is near to him. Correct? So now, because of which, all the users will be able to get proper data rate, right? Proper capacity. This day, once again, I'll read. Earlier, what was happening? The user 2, which was at farther distance from the base station, was suffering from the path loss, higher path loss. But with the case 2 with selfie, they said, at least because now we are, instead of keeping one base station with all number of all the antennas, large number of antennas, we'll keep large number of access points with one antenna or two antenna throughout the geographical area, throughout the coverage area, so that at least all the users will have one access point near to him or her. Okay, so you can see, and one important part is here. Okay, it's not like one, if this access point is only serving this user one. All the users are serving, sorry, all the access points are serving all the users. So it is like that. Just see this thing. All the users are serving all the access points. Only here. So you can see all the user is supported by all the antennas, like how it was happening. The user was receiving signal from all the antennas. Here also that is happening. This user is receiving signal from all the antennas, correct? And at the same time, there's always one antenna through which his channel is very good. So this will lead to a further reduction in the deep fade, also in performance improvement. I don't have to transmit with higher power here, because with lower power also. So this also leads in the increase in the energy efficiency in addition to the spectral efficiency. I hope this is clear. Okay. There's no question from the audience till now?
I think no question, sir.
Okay, fine. So now further moving, so this was about the why we went from massive MIMO in 5G, okay, and why people are talking about selfie massive MIMO. And this is not yet standardized. This is a candidate technology that may be used in 5G and beyond or 6G. Okay. Similarly, this another topic that I was mentioning here is about IRS. This is very important. Means this is very, very new, and maybe 1 or 2 years also, max 2 years, it came into existence, and people are just talking about, and people are very, very enthusiastic about this approach. Well, what is happening? Just if you think, okay, we have a base station, we have a user. Okay. Now we have a base station, we have a user. Now this base station wants to transmit towards the user. The wireless channel that I talked about here is not in our hand, right? Till now, that was always a problem. Researchers and academicians and this sector always have I can improve the transmitter hardware. I can improve the transmitter algorithms. I can improve in the similar way user hardware as well as software algorithms. But what about the channel? That is not in our hand, right? So that was always a thought from many decades about this. But now there's something important that has came, something called IRS, Intelligent Reflecting Surface, where we are saying we can control the wireless channel also. Okay, this is known as Intelligent Reflecting Surfaces. So people are saying we can control the wireless channel also by installing some kind of a reflecting surface on the wall of maybe large buildings. Okay, so what is there? For example, this is a passive device. Just listen. This is some kind of passive device they are thinking to install on a large device, which does not require any power. Passive device. Okay. So what is the property of this is whatever signal is getting impinged on this wall, on this element, it gets reflected. Okay. Now the idea is, suppose there is a tree here. The signal is reflected from here. It will get reflected in any direction, right? It may get reflected in this direction or this direction. We don't have any control over it. But with intelligent reflecting surface, what we are saying is this is controlled such that it will be reflected in the direction of the user. Okay, this is very interesting. That is very recent technology that is coming to picture. Like I'll repeat, with just random interface, like random objects in the environment, like for example, buildings, stars, and trees, we are not able to control the reflections here, right? The reflection can happen in any direction, but with the intelligent reflecting surface that is nowadays taking too much interest in the research community and industry community, what we are saying is the signal that is getting reflected, we are controlling that also. In what direction that signal is should be reflected to this surface. They are made of some kind of pin diodes or director diodes and such things, as per my knowledge. And that is reflected towards the user. And then in that way, the signal is not getting wasted. It is just moving in that, it is propagated in the direction of user. Okay. Sorry, guys. So this is one very nice research topic if you guys have any interest, okay, to work on 5G and beyond. So this is was about the intelligent reflecting surface, and there are so many. For the lack of time, not going to the details of it. Now let me go back to my presentation. Okay, I'll just try to cover as much as possible. Yeah. So you guys can see my screen, my presentation. Professor Garima. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. So, like I said, spectral efficiency, there are two important performance measures. Like I said, I was talking about all these technologies, right? Starting from single input, single output system in 3G or 2G. Then we want to multiple input, multiple output in 4G. Then when we went to Massey MIMO in 5G, and then now we are talking about selfie Massey MIMO or intelligent reflecting surface for 6G. So how do we measure the performance? How do we say, okay, this technology is good or this is performing better or not? There are two important terminologies for that. Okay, there is one thing is spectral efficiency, and there is another is energy efficiency. In spectral efficiency, like I said, it measures how well the spectrum resources are used. Therefore, it is the unit is bits per second per hertz. It takes care of the performance that is being observed by all the users. Suppose we have 2K number of users in our network, it will take care of all the users. Okay. So only when we talk about the energy efficiency, like I said, it is measuring how many bits are transmitted per joule of energy. This was how many bits are transmitted per second per hertz. It is how many bits are transmitted per joule of energy consumed. So this is defined in this way. Okay, energy efficiency is the ratio of the total throughput, okay, divided by the total power consumed in the network. And now the aim is to maximize this energy efficiency so that we achieve the higher spectral efficiency with minimum power. Okay, and there are many ways. So as I said, the unit is bits per joule, and there are many ways to define the energy efficiency. Okay, this is the energy efficiency of a user, right? EK I've written. But if I want to define the energy efficiency for a complete network, I can define it two different ways. Either I can define it in a way, like here what I'm doing is I'm summing up all the spectral efficiencies observed by the user divided by the complete power consumed in the system. Okay, I'm just sum it up. This is one way. Another way is to define here, for example, you can see what I have done. I have taken the energy efficiency of a particular user and I have done a weighted sum. I'm just multiplying with weight. Okay. So now what I'm doing is, if suppose a particular user has higher energy efficiency requirement. So with the help of this weight, I can assign that user a higher weight, higher energy efficiency. Okay, I don't think I'll be able to show that detail in this today's talk because of the lack of time. But you just think I'll give you an application of this. I'm have this one. Okay, what is happening? for example, there are two users in a network. One user has a requirement where uh, it cannot, it does not have any power kind of generator or some kind of thing. So it needs very, like for example, higher energy efficient system. Okay, but the second user does not bother about the energy efficiency. It's fine with that. He has good source of power. He can charge his phone all the time. Okay, and all those things. So the first user requires higher energy efficiency when compared to the second user. So if suppose for the what in future what can be done in future, the base station, the cellular operator can say, if you pay more, I can provide you higher energy efficient system. Okay, network. So if suppose someone is paying more, he will assign him higher weight. Based on that, he will see higher, what I would say, better energy efficiency when compared to the other user who is just seeing a poor energy efficiency, and he is fine with that. In future, this kind of thing may come also. Okay, so this may be as an additional feature provided by the cellular operators. So now let us go back like to the Massive MIMO right side. I'll just give you like in Massive MIMO, what is this single? Sorry, in single antenna we have just single antenna. So all the signal, because of the single antenna, it will flow in the equal direction, right? Like in isotropic nature. But when we have multiple antennas, what happens? That is the idea I wanted to show you. With single antenna, the signal is propagating in all the direction equally. Like here and there. Although my user is sitting here, but my signal is flowing here, 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 and there. Most of the signal is getting wasted. But with massive MIMO, with large number of antennas, not only massive MIMO, as we increase the number of antennas, what is happening? The signal is becoming more and more directed. So we are beamforming using this large number of antennas at the base station. The signal can be directed towards a particular user. What is the benefit here? When I was transmitting a signal from here, my same signal is transmitted in all the directions, because of which it is very difficult to serve multiple users at the same time. Okay, and because of which the interference increases. If more than one user is there. But with massive MIMO, with directed antennas, what is happening? I am able to serve multiple users, right? I am able to serve multiple users at the same time, and this is the huge advantage that massive MIMO brings. Okay, so many advantages. Now, another thing is, like I was talking about full duplex, I'll also introduce something called relay. So, consider a scenario where we have a base station, okay, and we have some users. So one group of users are there which are outside the coverage of this base station. So how to serve this? Should I install once again one base station to serve them? That will be a costly, right? And similarly, suppose second set of users are there, one set of user is there, which is having a blockade between the transmitter and receiver. For example, in the underground, for example, if we go to mall or some places, because of the high path loss, large path loss, because of the blockage, we don't receive signal, right? I always see this, or I have also observed, if I go to a mall, the base station in the basement where we park our vehicle, we don't get good signal, right? So what to do? Should we install a base station inside that tunnel, inside a parking space? That is a huge cost involved there, right? There is a simple thing that we can do here. We can install a relay. This is a low-cost device which can be installed wherever you want. Okay. What it does is it will receive the signal and it will amplify and propagate towards a particular user. There are multiple relay protocols, but if we just take the simplest one, amplify and forward protocol, or what it does is just receive the signal. Okay, it received the signal and it has just amplified the signal towards the user. Similarly here. So what happened? I'm able to support these users who are outside the coverage area of my base station, right? You can see, as well as I'm able to support a user which was facing blockages because of these buildings, or for example, if it is in the underground, right? So this relay is helping us in solving that problem. Now I'll introduce something called full duplex. Like I have already said, that with half duplex, what was there? Either transmitter was transmitting or receiver is receiving. Both thing was not happening simultaneously. But with full duplex technology coming into existence, Both the transmitter can transmit as well as the receiver can receive the same instant of time with same frequency. Now people would say like how it is possible, like the main disadvantage that comes is here is when I'm transmitting, my receiver is also receiving. So it will receive this signal also, right? The signal that is being transmitted will be received here also. And this is a huge bottleneck because the distance is very less, the path loss will be very low. Therefore, the power with the SNR with which I am receiving a signal here is very large. And this is acting as an interference module when compared to the signal that is being received from the transmitter of this, right? So only the issue is there. Correct. So this was a major bottleneck from last few decades, and people were talking, how can we do, how can we do? So there, like, but people were still working on it, and now with there is a solution. There are few solutions through which people have reduced the interference that is coming from transmitter to receiver, its own transmitter to its own receiver, to a certain extent, to the level of noise variance. Okay, and that's why now people are talking about full duplex. Now there is a possibility of the feasibility of this full duplex kind of system. You understood the issue, right? Why we were not able to do till date, that is an important issue. The reason was I am transmitting as well as receiving. So I am receiving my own signal. I'm receiving my own signal with very high power, correct? When compared to the signal that I'm receiving from the other person, right? Because it is placed at a certain distance. When the signal is moving from transmitter and receiver at a distance of, for example, D1, there is huge path loss because of the distance. But here the path loss is very low, it's almost nil. Therefore, the signal that is received is very large when compared to this. Okay. Now I'll give you some detail about some single pair layer models, very minor details. So these are the topics that you can take it for your research also. For example, I'll give you an idea. Suppose there are users which want to communicate with each other. Okay, there are two users which want to communicate with each other. So if the users can only transmit or receive, okay, just listen. The users can only transmit or receive at a particular instant of time. So if both the users want to exchange that information, total of 4 slots will be required, right? If only it is allowed that one user to transmit or receive at a particular instant of time, there will be 4 time slot that is required to transmit their signal. And but if you are allowed, if both the users are allowed to transmit at the same instant of time and they're allowed to receive at the same instant of time, we are reducing the overall time slot to 2 from 4. So this is known as half duplex one way. This is called half duplex two way. Okay, I'm going towards full duplex, but now with full duplex, what will happen? Everything will happen at the same instant of time. The users can transmit as well as receive also at the same instant of time. Here, what was happening? Users can either transmit or receive, and both users, all the users can do here. But in the first case, either one of the users only can transmit or receive. Here, both the users can transmit as well as receive. Now, when we are going towards a full duplex, what is happening? Everything is happening together, right, at one instant of time. So now if we see this, if suppose the spectral efficiency here that we are achieving is 1 megahertz, okay, with this I'll be able to achieve almost 2 megahertz, right? Just double because I'm saving on time slot per second. The unit is bits per second per hertz. I'm saving on a time slot, and here I can achieve 1 to 2 to 4 megahertz. So you can see from moving from here 1 megahertz with full duplex two way, I'm almost 4-fold we are achieving when compared to one way, and when compared to two way half duplex, we are achieving 2 times. But there is a catch here. In full duplex two way, the important hurdle is the interference that is coming because of its own transmitter. The receiver is receiving the signal from its own transmitter. So now the system is how much we can achieve from 2 to 4. Can we get 4 or we'll get only 3 or also lesser than 2? That is also possible. The performance of full duplex two way depends mainly on how much we are able to suppress the interference coming from its own transmitter. Okay, so it is always not possible to achieve twice the spectral efficiency achieved by half duplex, but it depends on how much we are reducing the interference when compared to. Okay, So there are few more things that I wanted to tell, but I think we're done with the timing. If you guys have any doubt with respect to anything, you'll let me know. So many things.